Hey there everybody, coming at you today with another knife video. This video is less about a review and more about a discussion. What I'm going to talk about today is what makes a bushcraft knife the best bushcraft knife for you. And so here I have a whole bunch of different knives that I would at least put in the consideration of being considered a bushcraft knife. Now, some of these you'll definitely agree, others you probably won't. Some of them are your typical traditional bushcraft style knives. Some of them are self-proclaimed bushcraft knives. Others you'll probably think are more survival knives. But all these, in my opinion, are at least worth talking about for that purpose, to determine whether or not these are suitable for your bushcraft needs. Now, part of me realizes that this discussion probably could have been a little bit better if we were actually outside and I was working on some wood, but I think it would take too long, and today's one of those days where my neighbor's just going to town working on his roof, and the last thing you want to listen to is the guy pounding a bunch of nails while I'm trying to explain some key points. So I figured I'd just do it here where I could just have a nice controlled situation, discuss some of the key points, and hopefully get my point across to you today. Alright, so of all these knives, why would you pick the one that you pick for a bushcraft situation? Well, if you're a girl, it's easy. You pick the pink one. No, just kidding. I guess for me, I really have to ask myself, what type of a system am I bringing that day? Now, for example, if I'm going to really be processing some wood and I'm bringing myself an axe, well, maybe my answer would be different. You know, if I have an axe and a saw, maybe my answer would be different. Or if I'm not bringing those, why would I choose one of these other blades? If I was only going to bring one, why would I pick it? Now, where to start? With all these different shapes and sizes, it's really hard to decide where I begin the discussion. But I'm going to try to keep this quick, so we'll move right through it. I mean, let's put it this way. Let's just say, for example, I'm not going to bring myself an axe and a saw. Well, I know for my purposes, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to want a slightly larger blade. Something that's going to be able to do all my fine tasks and also handle some of the heavier duty jobs like splitting wood, or maybe even I'm using it to clear off a tree that I need to hang my hammock, so I need to chop through some branches. Well, I'm automatically going to reach out to one of my larger blades. So I'm thinking in that case, it's either going to be something like my Esee 6 or potentially even my Becker BK7. Now, the only reason why I know that you're going to have an issue with this part of the conversation is the reality is these aren't necessarily your typical bushcraft blades. I mean, these are really more kind of a survival knife. But fact is, you know why I'm discussing this? Because I really need to have an option that's capable of doing everything. And even if I'm in a typical bushcraft scenario, I might want to bring a knife that's a little bit larger, capable of doing some tougher tasks. So to me, either one of these would be a pretty suitable option in that regard. Recently, I got my hands on the Becker BK2. Now, this thing to me is just way oversized. It's very heavy, and I think there's other options in this particular knife size range that would be a much better option for bushcraft tasks. I think this would definitely be a burly knife capable of doing a ton of work, but at the same time, I feel like it's a little bit overbuilt, kind of thick for the needs, and probably overkill for this particular situation. We have some knives that are self-proclaimed bushcraft knives. Here we have the Benchmade 162 Bushcrafter, the Tops Bob, the Mora Bushcraft Forest. Each one of these are perfectly good blades, but I'll tell you, after some use, I'm less than impressed with this tops bob. Now unfortunately, I feel like because of the thickness of the blade, the aggressive jimping, and just this modified Scandi grind, this doesn't perform quite as well as I'd like to, and it's not going to always be my first choice. For me, I mean, I've given this knife quite a bit of use, but I find I don't take it out regularly, and it's just not really making the cut these days, especially with some of the other options that I do have available at this time. What is nice about the Mora is that it's a very thin profile, it's extremely light, and actually if you're looking for a blade that's stainless, this particular model will be pretty good for you. Now it is, like I said, a very, very light knife. It's not going to weigh you down at all. It has a very slim profile sheath, and so if you're looking for a package that's pretty lightweight, very ergonomic, very capable knife, and a nice blade length, this could be a good option for you. I have used the Mora Companion for a number of years. It's been an excellent knife for me. In a similar fashion, it's very thin. Now the spine did not come very sharp. I did sharpen the spine, so I was able to spark a ferro rod. This particular model is a carbon steel model, and you can see it's been beat up pretty good and it's getting quite tarnished. But I did get my wife a stainless model. I have yet to give it to her, and I'm hoping that it's something that if I get her started in basic camp tasks, that would at least be a manageable knife for her. You'll notice here that I do have a couple of smaller knives. They could almost be considered neck knives. Here I have the Becker BK11. It is a very capable knife, but in my opinion, it's a little small. It's not going to be great for processing wood. If I was going to carry this, I'd have to have it coupled up with either another larger blade, maybe a chopper, or an axe, and probably a saw. So for me, this is probably not realistically an ideal bushcraft knife. I'm sure it could be used and probably do the job just fine if you're coupling it with another tool, but in my opinion, it's probably too small. This blade here is very, very nice. I like this quite a bit. I don't use it all that often anymore, but I did for a while. This is the Kizylar Nikki D-Tool tool steel. Very nice. It's actually Kizylar Supreme. There's a couple of different lines. This is a cool little knife. It might be a little on the small side for what you'd consider to be a bushcraft knife. It's probably closer to, I don't know, maybe a skinning knife or something like that, a small skinning knife, but definitely nice. I'm able to get this thing razor sharp, definitely hair popping sharp, and holds a nice edge, and it's very comfortable. It's a great little blade. I would consider pairing this up with a couple other tools, maybe a chopper or, the axe and saw combo if I had to process a little bit of wood. Obviously, with the shorter blade length, you're not able to baton too much of a, diameter of wood, but it's certainly a capable knife. I mean, it would be good too, maybe if you had the small knife with you and you were using it to cut up your dinner or something like that at the end of the night, if you're in a hiking situation or in, outdoor cooking, something like that. So definitely a nice little knife, totally worth paying attention to. I recommend it. Now I'm working my way towards what you'd probably consider to be a little closer to the size and typical look and feel of a traditional bushcraft knife. So I'm just going to cover a couple more real quick. I have this Schrade SEHF 14 little fixed blade. It was actually one of the first knives that I got when I started getting into camping. I've never really enjoyed this knife, to be honest with you. Very, very square handles, not too comfortable. Rough grip. I do not like that grip at all. Tough grind. Not a great grind angle. Cheap steel. I honestly don't even know what it is. Not really something I'd recommend, and I definitely do not recommend this for bushcraft. A blade that I recently got my hands on, and I'm actually pretty excited for this. This is the Becker BK16. I got this thing upgraded with my Carter handle scales, came to me as you see it. It's very comfortable. It's an ideal shape and size. I love the handle. It's perfect. I mean, it's just got a nice palm swell. It fits in your hand great. It's got jimping on the spine, but it's not too aggressive. I could go either way on jimping. This just happens to have it, but it doesn't bother me. I'll probably lose the coating. I love a full flat grind. I mean, that's one of my favorite grinds personally. I just like the feel of it. I like the control, and I like the way that it performs in a number of different tasks. So to me, this is getting to be almost ideal. It's right between a small tactical knife and a bushcraft knife. And for me, I'm pretty excited to get this out in the field and give it a try. Helen Ives makes some very nice knives. They're lightweight. These are made in Norway. They're sort of getting towards more of your traditional bushcraft style knife. They have Scandinavian grinds, reasonably short blade length. These particular knives are a stainless steel. They have very ergonomic and comfortable handles. You'll see here on this Helle Gaupe, it has a slightly larger handle than on this Helle Odel, which has a slightly smaller handle, both of which are comfortable in their own way. Both of them have a slightly different blade depth. The Gaupe is a bit larger than the Odel, but both of them are very nice. And I've carried these on a number of backpacking trips. I brought each one of them actually on different trips. I brought this one once and this one on a few of them. And these knives have performed beautifully, and I've been very impressed with them and enjoyed them very much. So for carving tasks and food prep and other bushcraft style tasks, these to me are a great option. Something worth noting is that both of these knives come in a very slim, nice form-fit leather sheath, so there's not a lot of extra material, no extra bulk, very, very light and small packages. So just something worth noting if you want a knife that's going to maybe go with you on a slightly longer trip and you're trying to cut down on weight. This is definitely a good way to do it, and you have a nice solid knife, nice blade length, quality materials, definitely a good way to go. Moving on, this is the Benchmade Saddle Mountain Skinner. This is in S30V. This is actually an interesting knife. Now, I'll be straightforward. I cannot recommend this, in my opinion, for bushcraft for a couple of reasons, but I do overall like the knife. The size, in terms of a bushcraft knife, is about right. You can see this blade has a slight recurve on it. I mean, ever so slight. It's actually just kind of more of a belly. The reason why I don't think I can really recommend this for bushcraft, the handle is just too thin. So that's part of the reason why I can't really recommend this. I mean, if you think about the types of tasks that you do while you're in a bushcraft scenario, you're applying a lot of pressure on the knife, especially when you're carving or whittling or anything like that, where you're really gripping the knife. I mean, it does have some really nice features where it has these scalloped handle scales and actually a very non-aggressive jimping, and this is actually kind of a little just more for style and look than it is for anything else. I mean, it doesn't do much for me in the way of grip anyway. It has some mild jimping here and some mild jimping up on the spine. I mean, this is really a skinning knife more than it is a bushcraft knife, but I just thought it was worth showing you. And one other thing that I guess I'm just going to bring up, which is I find, in my opinion, that Benchmade's Kydex is very, very cheap. I mean, it's thin. It's made okay. I guess it fits reasonably well, but I just find it to be sort of thin feeling and kind of cheap. And so I'm not really too thrilled with their Kydex sheaths. And so in that regard, I don't know if it would be worth, resheathing this sometime or just calling it a wash and keeping the cheap Kydex sheath, but it is what it is. So anyway, just wanted to show you real quick the Benchmade Saddle Mountain Skinner. Getting towards the end here, few knives worth paying attention to. Up here are some Wayne Walker custom knives, custom bushcraft knives. Now I have 3 of them at this point. I've showed you this one a few times. This to me right now is my go-to knife, especially paired up with another tool option like an axe and a saw. So for sure, moving forward in the way that I'm continuing to get into the hobby of bushcraft and camping and things like that, I'm tending to bring this knife with me. It's becoming my go-to. It's outperforming in some ways my Esee 6, just in the fact that this is a smaller knife. It's a little more wieldy. I can do plenty of work with it. It's thick enough, strong enough, sharp spine, great grind, very comfortable. Definitely, in my opinion, a perfect knife for bushcraft tasks. Paired up with a lightweight leather sheath and a custom-made matching fire steel, this gives me everything I need in a perfect, nice, quality package. I do have two other Wayne Walker custom knives. This particular knife is just made with some burlap micarta handle scales, very similar to the other blade, so I won't talk about it too much. But this one here is a neat little knife. This to me is less of a bushcraft knife and maybe more of what you would call an EDC blade. So this in particular is probably a little bit on the small side. These handles are really cool. These are a cocobolo wood with a carbon fiber pin, nice bright blue G10 liners popping off, and a little black spacer in there. I added the patina, so if you don't like it, don't hold it against the knife maker. This was just my particular style and what I put on here. But just a cool little knife that I really do like. I use it every day, but I don't think I would actually be able to consider this a bushcraft knife. Moving on, a couple of very nice, capable blades. These are made by Wright and Battle Horse Knives. This is the Wright Genesis. This particular knife is made with tool steel and a snake skin micarta handle scale. I can't remember for the life of me if this is A2 or O1, but I'm sure it's online and you can probably figure it out. And I don't know whether or not they actually made them with both, but this is, in my opinion, getting to be closer towards the traditional bushcraft knife style. You end up with a nice sized handle, comfortable to grip. It's almost a, I think you'd call it like a broom handle style. It has a very sharp spine, has your Scandinavian grind. Very nice, comfortable knife, scalloped handle scales. In my opinion, definitely a great option for bushcraft. And this is the BHK Woodsman Pro. Another very nice knife, very comfortable. Similar handle to the Wright, only it doesn't have the scalloped handle scales. I kind of wish it did, but not a big deal. Sharp spine, nice tool steel, and one of my favorite grinds, kind of like a high saber grind. I personally like that grind very much. A little bit better than the Scandinavian grind. This is a very comfortable knife, nice handle, nice length, and totally capable of doing tons and tons of work. And last but not least, this is the JX2 Jessmuk from Wright, designed by Chris Tanner of Prepared Mind 101. This is the very first generation. There's a new generation out that has some minor modifications to this, but this is the first model. I have, quite honestly, not used this as much as I should have. I'm actually becoming more intrigued as I sit here and kind of hold it and play with it. I've sort of put it on the back burner for a little bit, and I forgot how comfortable this is. If you look at the handle, it has some great ergonomics, very nice design, has a very sharp spine, interesting sweeping belly, capable of slicing and doing some great work. Nice pronounced tip that's center line to the rest of the handle for drilling. And so I think I need to get this thing going. This might become the next knife that I really start to play with for a while and get back into it. Like I said, I haven't really used it as much as I hoped I would when I first bought it. But this to me is definitely another really good option if you're looking for a quality bushcraft knife. Alright, so let's wrap this up. I started by asking, what makes a bushcraft knife the best bushcraft knife for you? And I'm basically going to wrap it up by saying this. For me and the knives that I have, personally, if I'm not going to be carrying another tool option, I'll go to one of these larger camp knives because I know I'm going to be able to do different work, better splitting, a little bit burlier of a knife, capable of doing some light chopping or moderate chopping even, and clearing some of the areas that I need to clear, and also processing plenty of wood, and then also doing the finer detailed tasks or even slicing my food. Now let's just say I was going to bring an axe or a saw or both. then I'm talking about probably one of these other knives. And to me, these would be my choice for the knives that I have. Now, I haven't really used the BK16 yet, but I can tell by holding it, I'm really going to like it. My Wayne Walker Custom Knives Bushcraft knife is just gorgeous. I know I can trust this at this point. I very, very much like the Woodsman Pro. In fact, this was the knife that I was carrying constantly right before I got this Wayne Walker Knives. So I love this knife. It's comfortable. I trust it. It's very, very ergonomic for me. And finally, the Jessmuk. I think it's just a good quality option. Very nice grind, razor sharp, super comfortable, and made by obviously a maker that you know you can trust with LT Wright. You know it's going to be quality. So anyway, that's what I have to say in terms of the actual knives. In my opinion, you need to be really careful about your carry system because it can make or break an experience. So whether or not you like leather or nylon or Kydex, that's kind of a personal preference thing. But just make sure that what you get is something that you like, that's comfortable and adaptable for all the situations that you encounter and for the needs that you have. So whether or not you want to go with a nice slimline package with stainless steel, or you want to go with a beefy camp knife with some versatility and flexibility, maybe some MOLLE webbing, capable of connecting your knife to a pack, more of a traditional leather sheath, more of a traditional bushcraft knife, or maybe you're going a little bit larger. You want more of a survival knife for your bushcraft needs. Quality Kydex, nice thick, nice rivets, dangler system. Just pay attention to the carry system because it can make or break your experience, and that is absolutely for sure. All right, so there you have it, guys. Just a quick discussion on what makes a bushcraft knife the best bushcraft knife for you. You know kind of what it is for me. I mean, obviously I have a lot of options here, and I like different things for different reasons. And in fact, every scenario for me has given me a reason to carry a different knife, and that's partly why I have so many of them. Maybe I'm a little addicted. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.